All right, welcome YouTube. Hi, this is Scott with Wild Camp South, and I'm looking to get back into posting some wild camping videos soon to the site. I thought I'd start out with an educational video of e-scouting for southern wild camps, the way I do it, so to speak. So we're just going to dive right in. And get started. So for myself, I think a lot of us use Google Maps here to kind of get started, right? As you can see, this is the Homochitto National Forest. By the way, for anyone new or outside of the state, Wild Camp South is primarily doing wild camping in Louisiana and southern Mississippi. And the two forests I currently have 48 wild camps in combination with both the Homochitto National Forest and the Kisatchie National Forest over here in the Kisatchie Ranger District here and the Calcasieu Ranger District here. Today we're going to focus on the Homochitto. I'm from South Louisiana, so the Homochitto is a great resource for me. It's about 2 hours away, and that's where the majority of my experience stems from. So also a little background on me. I've done some forestry work for the Louisiana Department of Ag and Forestry, about 2 to 3 years worth, doing the safest U.S. Forest Service inventory work, and I currently work as a GIS analyst for a local AEC firm. So a lot of my experience with wild camping, I use desktop mapping software to locate possible wild camp sites, to then go out and recon and scout those points that I drop online to validate whether or not they suffice or pass for a wild camp site. I have other criteria that we can go into in detail, but that'll be a longer video. So let's just get started. So I'm comparing Google Maps with the online mapping software of Onyx Maps. There are four different apps that you can choose from: the Onyx Hunt, Onyx Off-Road, Onyx Backcountry, and Onyx Fish. So each one caters to what that is. Onyx Hunt, a lot of hunters use it, right? Onyx Off-Road are for folks who like to overland in their vehicles. Onyx Backcountry is for hikers into finding actual hiking trails. And Onyx Fish, that's self-explanatory. I've used Onyx Hunt off-road and backcountry, and I continue to come back to Onyx Hunt for its ease of use, its reliability, its pricing, the whole deal. If you'd like to find out more about it, you can go to onyxmaps.com and check it out. Once again, I use Onyx Hunt over Onyx Backcountry, which is the hiking app, due to the fact that the Onyx Hunt app has a lot of features and layers that are critical that I use to find these wild camp sites while I'm e-scouting. I have a 75 to 85% success rate, meaning the points that I drop for a location to recon and go scout out in the field, boots on the ground, end up becoming great sites with certain criteria that I do use. But this is just going to be a small introduction. If you guys like what you see with Onyx Hunt app used for camping, just drop some comments below. Maybe I'll do a further in-depth video. So let's just get started. So here is Google Maps. Here's the Homochitto National Forest. You have your map layers down here. You can use the terrain map, which kind of shows you elevations in a 3D type, what we call hill shading technique in the mapping world. Very cool. And most of us use the aerial map. We all know this, right? But look what happens once you use the aerial map. You kind of lose your boundaries like you had here when you go to your aerial. And how do you find the Homochitto National Forest is just shy of 300,000 acres. What constitute a great place to go? This, that, and the other. There are many criteria that go into finding a great location. And when we compare, that's what we're going to do. I'm just trying to set this up for you to see the differences you might actually scout around with using Google. The more you zoom in, the better the detail gets. It has basic roads, county, state, highway, interstates, roads. But when you're dealing with a national forest, and I deal with the national forest because it is free to disperse camp or wild camp there. Each forest is different, so you need to check your national forest regs and policies and laws to see what actually you can do as far as wild camp or disperse camp. Same thing. So just doing a basic comparison, when I log into my Onyx Hunt app, here you go. This is what it looks like. We're generally looking at Mississippi, and I have some staggered points out here, but I wanted to really zoom in on Southwest Mississippi where the Homochitto is to give you an idea of all of its features, and then ultimately once we start nailing down how I actually go about e-scouting for my wild camps. So right now you can search, you have layers, you have tools on this side. You have settings in here, but I'm just going to start working through it. Right now, we are currently using the topo right here with LiDAR hill shading. Similar to the terrain that we looked at here, you see the hill shading, those shadows, that kind of gives you, it works in conjunction with the contour lines and shows you a somewhat accurate depiction of the elevations. Okay, so Onyx has that too. If we start to zoom in, look what happens though. Look how much better it is. If we go back to Google Maps, it doesn't have as many streams on it, but we start getting a lot more detailed here. Okay, then one thing, we're going to go ahead and zoom back out, and we're just going to show the magic now. So we're going to come here. We're going to go ahead and turn on our satellite imagery. There it is. Still kind of difficult to know where the Homochitto National Forest is, right? So now we're going to go to our layers. Okay, we come to our layers here. We're going to go ahead and add Mississippi. You can we can kind of look towards the end of the actual cost itself of this, there's several tiers. I'm on the elite tier, which has access to all 50 states. You can do one state or you can do 2 states. We have Louisiana there. Where's Mississippi? Hello. There it is. Let's turn on Mississippi. You'll notice once we do that, we get a little bit more data that starts to pop in. Then we're going to come up here and we are going to turn on the government lands layer. Boom. And already you can hit the details and read what that is, but already we're getting something a lot better in OnX than we are with Google Maps. Here we are zoomed out. If we turn our aerial on, you get no layer overlays whatsoever. Okay? Come back to OnX Hunt. We now have our layers. You can also do private layers. So you can start to zoom in and it'll show you the private areas so you know wherever you are on the ground that these red areas are private. If you click on one, it'll give you general information. Private lands, the owner, the tax address, the county, the area, blah, blah, blah. I usually leave this off until I need it. We're also going to come into our layers and we're going to turn on possible access layers. These are places throughout the U.S. where landowners may give, landowners or corporations or companies, generally timber companies, will give you public access through to get to certain public lands. So I leave that on. We're going to go to, you can also put current conditions. You have all of this stuff: active wildfires, smoke, drought, air, precipitation radar, temperature, cell coverage. This is great. This is a great thing to use. As we start to zoom out, now it's going to take a little while for it to pop in. Let's see. Cell coverage is on. I'm actually working off of Wi-Fi, so it's a bit slow. Computer's starting to ramp up. Let's go ahead and turn that off just for right now. Then we're going to go to, generally when we want to go to land and access. We want to turn on wilderness areas. Okay. Let's zoom back out to the Homochitto. So we have wilderness areas, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Hunt areas. I keep on. You can actually do township, section, and ranges if you want to use that. There's your townships. We're zooming in. You're getting down to your sections. And the rest of this is a lot of hunting type layers. So that's it for land and access. Now we're going to go to roads, trails, and recreation. So I turn on trail slope. So this is for any hiking trails. The trail mileages are on. Roadless areas I generally keep off. Motorized roads and trails I keep on. And this is spotty for certain areas. This is a forest visitor map. Let's go ahead and turn that on and see if we get any of that in. Yes. So the forest visitor map is similar to the old original topo maps. You can actually, they're all scanned. So that is a help too. But then you can also come here and use OnX's topo map that we just looked at a minute ago. Let's go back to satellite. Let's go ahead and zoom back out. As you can see, if we zoom out all the way, national U.S. fish wildlife areas are outlined in orange here. We have wildlife management areas. This is going across the river west into Louisiana. So just those layers on, it's starting to fill up. So I'll keep those on. We did the roads and trails. Yep. Now let's go to trees, crops, and soil. And for right now, we're going to turn on timber cuts, and we're going to come back to this in just a moment. And from there, that is it. I don't usually turn on any of these wildlife layers. Elk distribution, turkey hunting, none of that. Okay, so everything's kind of ready to go. Here you have your what's starting to pop in right now, your roadless. These are areas, and then you can also see that it's starting to fill with the timber cuts. So these are clear cut. Then you just saw a trail. We're right here by Clear Springs Lake, just south of Roxy. And this makes up, you have the Richardson Creek Trailhead, Mills Branch, and Tanyard Creek Trail. So this timber cut right here was done in 2021. These are good to have on to know what's going on. There's your trails. If any sort of ingress or egress to a wild campsite, if you didn't have these on, you might not know that there's a trail system that you can come in, park your car here, and then walk this trail and come around and maybe get to a wild camp you found here while e-scouting. If these were turned off, you would never know that was there. Okay, so from there, I'm going to show you what I'm currently working with here. And let me go to something real quick. Do this. Put this in. We're going to go to a specific area, because when I'm starting to look for certain wild camps, I'll show you what I do. I'm putting in a lat long and doing a search on an existing site. Okay. So right now, you can see that there was a timber thinning in 2012 in these areas. We have a north-south road here, Woolly Trail northwest, coming down. Let's see where that is to a major highway. So here we have Meadville, Mississippi, Bude, Ediston, Quinton, McCall Creek, Loosedale. If we keep on going, there's Brookhaven and Highway 55 that runs north-south. So if I wanted to go to that area, let's say I was scouting this area. Just lost it. And I'm kind of looking and going, what do they have around here, I'll come here and I will go to my layers and I will come back to trees, crops, and soils. And I'm going to turn on the deciduous tree distribution. And I'm going to turn on the acorn producing oaks. And I'm going to turn on wetlands, which we won't have a lot of wetland information there yet, because we're not in a type of area to do that. So when I go to deciduous trees, if I click details, just make sure all these are on. By default, they're not. And then when I do this, what this tells me is these are areas, when I scrub over here, these are mixed hardwood and pines, okay? All scattered through here. They're all over. The majority of the other are pine, conifer. So as I'm coming up here, I'm wanting to look at access and certain things, and then I see something right in here. What is this right here? Well, it's some kind of creek or river or stream. So then what am I going to do? I kind of like that. One thing us foresters know is that in forestry, there are what's called streamside management zones. These are buffer zones that are left wooded on purpose as to leave the area pristine, so to speak, where you won't have chemical runoff, where wildlife have a natural area to travel. Okay, it's illegal in the United States to cut all the way up to a water source, a running water source such as a stream, creek, river. Okay, so naturally, I know if they don't cut up to a creek, river, stream, I know that there's going to be some old trees. And if you look at this really well, I have a mix of hardwoods through here with some pine. Now, one thing to show you is look at this set of trees compared to this set of trees. This is very dense. These are pine trees that maybe are anywhere from 15 to 20 to 30 years old. As I get here, this is a natural, what we call habitat edge effect up against this creek, okay? And if you look, the crowns of the trees, they almost look like broccoli compared to these little tops and crowns. I know that these trees are mature mixed hardwood and pine, and that the understory underneath it is going to be extremely minimal, which means you can walk freely. So now we're going to kind of test that. I'm going to come over to my satellite 2D tool, and we're going to turn on this hybrid. When I do that, look what happens now. We now have all the rivers, creeks, and streams. What we call hydrology has now populated in. And notice how this timber thinning, which is not a clear cut, a timber thinning means the timber company went in and thinned it out in order to give the strongest trees a better chance to grow faster, okay, and fill out. Now, some of these, see how this is a lighter color than the main one? This is probably a drainage. And the select cut was probably done. There's a closed road here. So they accessed that way and did a thinning through here. But generally, most of these cuts will not happen. Look how, if you look at this cut, it avoids this and it avoids this whole line right here because they have to leave this area right on the outside of that boundary as a streamside management zone. Same here. If you look, if I zoom out, you can kind of see the shape. You see this stream here, it comes up and then it makes this and it comes down, it goes east-west. Well, the timber thinning is inside of that. So they can't cut up against there. Those are the best ways to search for mature mixed hardwood and pine forest land and have a water source close to you for a possible wild camp location. So as I'm looking, I have road access in. I can see right here we got a bridge. Okay. Now there's another tool that really makes this pop, okay, that you can't find. So now I'm going to come over to my hybrid tool, and a lot of states across the US have leaf-off imagery data sets. Back in the old days, before Google, all aerial surveys were shot with large format aerial analog cameras with film that were fitted into the belly of the planes. And at that time, it was primarily done through programs like NAPE, the National Aerial Imagery Program from the USDA. And they either shot in color infrared, but they did it during leaf off to maximize being able to see the ground. So naturally, what does that do? If I come and do leaf off imagery, watch closely. Look what happens. Everything without leaves looks grayish or whitish. Everything that is green is a coniferous pine species or cedar, any conifer. So this really lays the groundwork for me as a really cool place possibly to go check this out for a wild camp. So there's a bridge here. Looks like, oh, here's the bridge. Looks like there could be parking here, parking there, blah, blah, blah. So what I would do is I would kind of look at this. I want to be a certain distance away, right, from the road, but I want to enjoy myself out in the woods, so to speak. So I kind of see this area, this boundary of where the big mature hardwoods are running along the creek, and then the contour lines are telling me that the elevation is moving up. See, we got 360 feet here. Right here we got 370. Okay, 390. So now I've found my hardwoods. I can come in and I can turn off the wetland and the tree species, the acorn, oaks, and the deciduous trees, just to make things a little bit more visible. Okay, because now I know what leaf off imagery is, shot during the winter, during leaf off, that these are mature hardwoods. We also know by forestry practices that they keep their streamside management zones. That's why these pines are planted up on these ridges and not down in the bottoms. So this is a great place. It's looking like we have a bend right here. So I might park my vehicle somewhere along here and enter right on the border and kind of hug this area and check out these areas of the creek to see how open the area is, how flat it is it sustainable? Is it just a drainage? It's looking like it says it's Lick Creek, but is the water flowing? Is it stagnant? Is it flat enough for tents? Are there enough tree space to hang? All these criteria that I use, which I have a bunch of. So now I'm going to light this up for you. I'm going to go ahead and turn satellite on to clean it up. We're going to get the Homochitto back out. And I'm going to come to my content. And this is folders filled with waypoints and tracks and lines. And I'm going to turn on my Homochitto wild camps. All right, I'm sorry about that. I had to pause and get something straight just for a minute. Now, as you can see, it is organized chaos for me. For anyone else, it just looks like a blob, right? So let's go to that same area where we were, right? And you can see now what I've done. So when I first start out and I'm e-scouting, I will drop these pins like this called recon. And the orange default waypoint pin will become an area that I will go out in the field and recon to see what's there and all that good stuff. See if it's viable, right? So this is one of my wild camps I've recently found. This is that same area we were talking about. Let me turn my leaf off imagery back on. And if you notice, I have a parking waypoint, I have an access waypoint, so I found an area on the ground while I was there. Just like I told you, I found that border between the hardwoods and the creek on the north, and then where the pines and the elevations start to go up on the south. And we look at the parking point. Here's your information about the parking point. You know, you have the coordinates, your elevation. This is a really cool tool, the waypoint radius tool. I will use this. Let's put a 150 on here and see what that does. So roughly, you're looking at roughly about 150 yards from where you parked to your wild camp back in the woods. Now that's as the crow flies. That's just a radius. So we're going to remove that. I actually have one for the wild camp, or I did at one time. But anyway, let's go back to park. Let's go to the waypoint. You can get weather and wind direction. It tells me what folder it's in. You can add photos both out in the field on the mobile app and here on the desktop. If I click this, you can see there's that bridge that we pointed out on the area, and there's a big shoulder that's really dry and fairly level for about 3-4 vehicles could actually park here. So that's cool. So what I usually do is before these points are even there, you know, we'll park. I'll start looking for an access point. If I click this access waypoint, you can see right here what are some things that kind of over on the right here is that south area of pines. Over on the left is the larger hardwoods and the creek. Kind of use that down tree, and this area really looks open. If you look right here, it's almost like a cathedral opening all the way back in there. This is a good place to walk with very minimal understory there. These photos were taken in February or January, I'm not sure. So we just kept walking, and once we kept walking back, I noticed on my app, the same app, Onyx Hunt, that we were getting a little too far away from the creek. I said, well, let's make an abrupt turn and start heading straight north. Let's find that creek. So I took the path of least resistance, and I came to this opening right here. I was like, wow, this is cool. This is a great place. Some places just stand out. So if we look at the waypoint and we go to some photos, the photos really doesn't do it justice, but it was nice and open in here. Look at, see the understory? It's just leafy, a few green ferns here and there. So this photo is looking back this way, south, and this photo, nope, this photo right here, this is the creek back here. how open this is in here, and you're up on this little ridge. This was a cool area down in here. So that's shooting right here, that photo. So I went and got, once we found the creek, a lot of these creeks are very steep. So we look for areas where it's somewhat accessible. So if you need a water source, you can go grab water. So let's look at this waypoint water source here. Beautiful. Look, you can just kind of jump down there and go hit out on that sandbar. This water was crystal clear, ice cold, running and flowing. And then this is going the other way. If I look at, we kept exploring this area, and we came to this kind of peninsula out here, and we found this space, this spot. This was really cool. You could get all the way down. You could see how high the general elevation is, and then boom, it cuts off. But you can walk right down to this area and get in the creek and walk it. Okay, so here we have a completed wild camp location. We have everything that I look for in a wild camp. So we're on the national forest. It's legal to wild camp there. We have access, road systems in. In this case, this is not a designated trail. This is off trail. I did my e-scouting and due diligence to locate timber that was both accessible and somewhat easy to walk through. So we're looking for mature hardwoods, bottomland, mixed pine, and hardwood uplands. I see that creek, that's a water source. Boom, that's automatically a place to go out. At one time I had an orange pin just like this. I think I had it somewhere right here in this mound. And the actual wild camp we picked was right here. Out of all of this sea of Homochitto National Forest, I picked that area because it's fairly conducive to coming in from when I travel from Highway 55, 84, and I just went up this area, just something about this area. I look for the creeks. I start with the creeks and streams and the hardwoods. Okay? And that's right on the money. This is a great wild camp to come visit. It's beautiful in there. And that's how I look for them. I start off with a less busy aerial. I turn off the leaf off. I turn on the satellite, which turns off the contours and the creeks. And I will generally just start going. You can see how I found all these Forest Service gates. That's another big one that I constantly look for. So if I see that there's a creek over here and I want to make a wild camp, well, there's a Forest Service gate here. I'll have a longer walk, which is not a big deal. It's just good to know where these gates are, right? So this is a recent one we just found, Steep Hill Creek. I'll show you this next one, and you'll start seeing a similarity with these wild camps. If I go ahead and turn on my creeks and streams and my contours, we have Forest Service Road 113G that comes off of a county road, which is, I can't read that, Ron Marshall Road, right? Comes all the way up. Okay, and then you're gonna take 113G down. You're gonna come over in order to get to all of this creek and stream here. Now notice how there's a hole in the Homochitto boundary. Hey, what's that about? So usually if there's a hole like that within the forest, it's private land. So let's go check private land. Let's turn that on. Boom. So we have private land. It's owned by Beretta Daniel. Just go ahead and click on it and show you. Their tax address, that's not necessarily the address of where they live, but that's where their tax bill goes to. This guy's got a woman has a P.O. box in Gloucester, Mississippi, in Franklin County. It's 74 acres. So I know if I come in here and I start looking for a wild camp, I really can't go too far because I'll hit private land. And here's a private patch too. So I'll go ahead and turn that off. Notice where my camp is though. Turn off private land. Then we'll come in and let's turn on our leaf off. And boom, you see the same type of timbered area. You know, those grays and whitish hardwoods that are within. See, here's a great example of streamside management zones and age class in forestry practices and logging. Notice how this whole strip that this man owned that we just saw, he wanted this all cleared, and then he came back and replanted. This is all anything 5 to 10-year-old to maybe 12-year-old pines that he had planted. Now if you look above here, we have the creek and we got nothing but hardwoods, and we got hardwoods that follow the creek. Why? Because that's nature. That's what happens when you start getting into lower elevations. These species change. These contours tell me that it's going up the hill. It's going up the hill all the way to 410 feet, as opposed to down here, which is 330. You know, it might be 280 down here in the creek, or even lower. It's 250. But as far as streamside management zones go, when they came in to take this rectangle, probably looked exactly like this with some beautiful hardwood timber in it. This is a timber investment. This man probably came in, he had an access road, and they cleared and took all that beautiful hardwoods to the mill, and he cashed in and got a lot of money. And in return, he replanted it in pine. But notice where they couldn't take anything from. Look how they left the buffer around the streamside management zone. You see how it looks once you go off his land and get back into the forest? Start spreading out again. That whitish grayish follows that creek. That's all mature hardwoods, mixed hardwoods too. And these are your pines up on the hills. So I came in, I looked at this, I saw a bridge, place to park, marked my point out there. This is a sweet gum right off the road. Here's my track that I recorded in to get there with minimal understory. If I look at the site itself, look how nice and open this is in here. And it looks like that behind me and on the right and left of me. Okay, I'm actually looking back away from the camp, back in this thick area right here. And then the creek, we look at the creek waypoint, beautiful creek that you can get down to easy. So you have a water source. This is a brand new wild camp that we just found. But notice everything that starts to come together. It all starts with, where can you wild camp? National forests. Now we're going to start looking for rivers and creeks. Like when you got it way out here, I just take time and surf this constantly. I'm looking. I'm coming in here. Here's something I put. I think I went and checked on. I'm not sure what that is. Here's Savra Bluff. This is a great spot. Access from off Highway 84 south. Place to park right here. It's another example. And this one is on McCall Creek, which is a beautiful creek. This actual wild camp, I rate my wild camps with easy, moderate, or challenging. This is right in between moderate and challenging. Almost all the way back there, you actually have a nice trail to walk. But notice how I have roads, accesses. I looked for big creeks and streams. Then I started looking at this road and I noticed something right in here. It looked like an inlet. So I put a basic waypoint in to come look, and when I found this, I hit on the waypoint. Look at that. Perfect parking. This is the Forest Service Road here. I had a place to park. Access, this is right behind the truck in that previous photo, going up along a nice trail. Here's my recorded track. I have a checkpoint here. The reason why I put that checkpoint here is because there's a trail that goes right and a trail that goes left. And you'll notice in my notes, stay on left side of trail. So I kept following the trail. This is the area where it's completely, I couldn't get all the way back to McCall Creek. That trail ended back here. Just completely ended. But because this is all mature hardwood and mixed pine, big trees. And if you notice by these contours, this is a huge bluff. You know, you're almost up at 400 feet right here, going down to maybe 220 or 200 once you're in the creek. This right here is a massive bluff. That's why I call it Savoy Bluff. But here at this checkpoint, we go look. I actually don't have an image for that one. It is a checkpoint here. There should be an image. And then Savoy's Bluff has a great little spot right on the creek, man, to camp. All along in here, beachfront. You can get out on the beach, you can get your water. Beautiful place. Again, access in. First it starts with where can you wild camp. For us here in the south and a lot of parts of the east, it's going to be your national forest. You need to check with the national forest you intend to recreate in. Go check out their dispersed camping rules, regs, and policies before. Once you do that, you know, you can get a subscription to Onyx, or, you know, I've had Gaia, Onyx, All Trails, Hiking Project. There's tons of them, and I've used the majority of all of them. This Onyx Maps Hunt, although you can see I'm not using it for any hunting, I am using all of these golden layers here. Land and access layers, roads and trails and rec, trees, crops, and soil. Okay, all of that is not in their Onyx Backcountry Hiking app. It's totally different. Okay, totally different. Here is an example of one of those radius maps, waypoint radius. So if you look where you actually access and park, I made the radius. So it is 0.26 miles to Wild Camp Center. And this is another beachfront wild camp. Getting sidetracked. So National Forest, road systems. Then you get something like Onyx Hunt Maps or Guide. I wouldn't recommend Guide. It is a steep learning curve. I mean, you just can't beat this Onyx Hunt app for camping and hiking as far as waypoints and things like that. Um, the layers that it has, you know, once you get down to access your road accesses and things, and you come in here and you turn on that hybrid layer that shows you all the creeks, rivers, and streams, then you start looking for places. And then once you start getting at a zoomed in scale, you know, come over here and use your leaf off imagery. And, you know, would this be a good place to come? Well, not really. This is going to be a thick bog. Let's go ahead and check the topo and see if I'm right. It doesn't say anything, but that's real low in there. Sometimes they'll have a little blue pond in here, but this, I know this area is thick and it's like a wet seep area there. Now, and the fact that this is a intermittent stream or drainage, there might not even be any water right now. I would not waste my time looking there. Yeah. If I come right here and I see this stream right here, well, what is this? Timber cut. That's going to be thick. Notice how they left the stream in, the trees around the stream. That is a law. Streamside management zone. But again, you know, we have the access. This looks like an old road. They probably used this to come in and cut. See, it says clear cut. So all this is thick as hell since 2023. You know, that's 3 to 4 years of, I don't know if they replanted it or what, but it could be a wall of briars by now. 1 story high. Would not want to go start scouting there. And I just constantly see this might be a good spot. This is the Okisa Lake, you know. And when I have these boundaries on, I can see how close I can get to it. I can see this creek that runs through here, but I don't see any roads. I don't see any road system. Let's make this less busy and turn off the creeks and streams. And, you know, they're showing these old spotted roads. These are old Forest Service and timber harvesting roads that probably aren't there. So the only road you have in this whole boundary here is right here. And I've got it highlighted as an access road. It looks like it's Berrytown Road. So getting access into this nice, I mean, it's a nice creek and stream, but you're just not going to get access. You're going to be beating the briars. It's going to be a long hike to get in here. So those are some tips on and tools on how I go about finding, locating, then going out in the field and validating my wild campsites. And that's basically it. I appreciate your time. If you want to go look, if we look at pricing for Onyx hunts, a premium, a single state is $35 a year. That's not bad at all. If you do the majority of, you know, your recreation in one state here, that is not bad at all. With all the features and the stuff that you're hitting, and it works on the desktop and on your app, simultaneously. You're out in the field, you lay waypoints, you come back home to this desktop, boom, they're there, they're synced up. And vice versa. You drop your pins and stuff here on the desktop, you go out into the field, boom, those pins are there. Really cool. You can even share pins with other friends if 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 they want to come on a wild camp. If they have Onyx, you can share your pins with others and they can meet you at a time. So this is new, the premium 2-state. So for $50 a year, I used to do this one with Louisiana and Mississippi. I now do the elite because I'm going all over the place: Alabama, Arkansas, East Texas, and I just love this software. I love this app. So I paid the $100 a year for it. Feel free to go check out some of their other apps, but they're catered to certain other things. I know I'm sure Onyx Hunt did not intend to use their Hunt app for what I'm doing, but out of all four of their apps here in the South, not out west, but here in the South, it is the best tool to find these awesome places. I'm just going to end it here. If you haven't visited my website, Wild Camp South, please go check it out. There's some cool resources there. You can read. There's some cool photos about me, what I do, mission, goals, awareness and networking, educating, planning. The concepts and methods that I use to find places like you're seeing right here. Okay. Wild Camp, if you want to get deep into how I really use a lot of forestry and GIS terminology and my site criteria, the 10 site suitability criteria for remote point discoverability, all my wild camps have these 10 site suitability criteria: lawful land recreation, contiguous wilderness areas, road and trail access, mature hardwoods, water sources, streamside management zones, riparian areas, topography and level areas of interest, vegetation profiling, and all of the wild camps are 1,000 yards or less. But you can read up a little bit more of that. Another great thing is I do offer a wild camp report. It's $20 for like 60 to 70 pages. That's every wild camp with all the information you would need. You can I'll link some of the videos in the description below if you want to see a little bit more about that. This is something that I'm working on, the Wild Camp Mapper. And then where I think a lot of people would really enjoy the site is I have every wild camp for the Homochitto and the Kisatchie. So as you can see, for the Homochitto, I have 26. This is coming soon. For the Kisatchie National Forest, over in the Kisatchie Ranger District right here, there are 11 wild camps. And here in Calcasieu Ranger District right here, there are another 10 here, making 20 full wild camps over in Kisatchie. Really cool. You can click on these. Since we've been looking at Homochitto, let's go look at one for Kisatchie. This is wild camp number 1, Watermelon Pond. You can see I give a basic description. It's easy. Here's some photos where you park, the starting point, wild camp, the water source. This is an older map that I'm replacing, but you could actually click on this map link and it'll bring you to a Google My Maps map, similar to what exactly I have in Onyx. And you can use this on your mobile as well. Another cool thing is we have 360 panel tours of every site. So you can zoom in, you know. This is what it looks like. Look how nice and open this is. Beautiful. I love this place. And there's a pond down here with water in it. This is an old, at one time this whole area was nothing but probably ag fields. The farmer, sharecropper, whatever, probably had this pond here for cattle. Either go in, or maybe he fenced it off because he didn't want them in it. Either or. So check out Wild Camp South website, and that is it. I appreciate your time. I hope this wasn't too long. Feel free to leave some comments. Feel free to visit the website, wildcampsouth.com. I have all my contact information there if you'd like to send me an email. Feel free. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.